Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote. I am your podcast host here at Action Coach in Central Texas. Today, I have on the show Jason Terry, co founder of General Ledger Partners. Today, we're going to be talking all about his business, his journey to business ownership, challenges, best practices, and share a sneak peek to what it's really like to own and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop conversations just like this one. Well, hey, Jason, how's it going? I'd love to hear a little bit about you and about the business.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I actually live in Brenham, so I don't know if that technically counts as Central Texas, but our company is founded and headquartered in the Austin area. Been in business for just about 3 years, effective July 1. Me and my co-founders split out from a prior firm that we were with. But stepping back a little bit, I'm from Colorado originally. I ended up down in San Antonio for college, and then stayed, got married, kind of raised a family here, and just never went back. Still adjusting to the heat and humidity, but I guess it's been so long, I don't think it's ever going to happen. Um, we run a General Ledger Partners is an outsourced accounting and finance firm. My partner and I worked at a larger Austin-based firm before. We went through some acquisitions, some other things, and we ended up splitting out from them and going our own way back in July of 2021. It was. And since then, we have grown from the two of us to a team of 10 now. So two of us plus 8 additional employees, and probably looking to add 2 or 3 more people by the end of the year, I think.
Oh, that is really cool. Well, thank you for giving me that little snapshot of your business and what you're doing. And so I'd like to learn a little bit about your business ownership structure. You have this partnership. Are there any other outside investors or anybody involved?
No, it's just the two of us. One of the fortunate things from our perspective about a professional services firm is there's really no initial cash outlay. So like the need to raise funds and do those sorts of things, it just didn't occur for us or didn't need to do that. So really we've been able to keep it just the two of us, no, debt raise, equity raise, nothing like that from the beginning.
Oh, that's really nice too, keeping the overhead low.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us a little bit about your role, that you're currently playing. Like, what does your day to day look like? How many hours are you spending working in the business versus on the business?
Yeah, we're in a bit of a kind of an awkward teenage years phase in our business right now where we do have a team now, so it's not my partner and I just doing all the work in and on the business. But we're still pulled back into the business a lot. We've hired a lot. We're facing things like employee training and hiring and a lot of other things that we weren't initially dealing with in the business. So I think right now we're probably the two of us are probably putting in 50, 60 hours a week, of which probably about 40 of that is still directly like client service, doing accounting work, all that other stuff. And, there's probably a 10 to 20 hours a week of working on the business sort of stuff, dealing with building onboarding plans, reviewing, agreements, pricing, resources, hiring, all that sort of fun, not fun things that you got to do.
Oh, totally. I understand that world all too well. So, yes, thanks for your honesty there and sharing about where you're at. So, you talked about your employees, you have a team that you're building. Let's go into a little bit about your leadership style with your team. How do you feel your leadership style has changed over these years in business?
We've definitely learned a lot, especially recently. We were fortunate enough when we first started hiring that several people from the firm we left had been looking for jobs and joined us. So there was a very seamless, low kind of resistance onboarding, and they kind of just knew the way we operated. They knew the type of work that we did, our style, and all that. Recently, we've actually run into this as a bigger challenge that we are spending a lot of time right now dealing with, which is hiring people that come from just from industry out of working directly for a business, or consultants from other consulting firms that we have discovered have a lot of times a very different approach to client service and the way that they structure work. We try to be very much, results oriented, kind of go the extra mile for the clients, but we also want to do that plus some for our employees to make sure that, especially in our space, accounting in general, there is a significant shortage of skilled accountants for what in general the market needs. So there's very, very intense competition for good people. And so we try to give people a lot of autonomy, give them the ability to, in some ways, try to structure their schedule. We're very flexible because we are consulting. We all work from home. There is no office. So we were able to kind of give that to people. But we try to very much operate off the trust but verify, and give people the law as much kind of leeway to, as long as they get the job done, it's done well. There's not going to be a lot of, forcing certain, like, you got to do it this way, or you got to be at your desk at 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, we try to be very flexible with those sorts of things with management. But, we're finding now that we're needing to give a lot more reassurance to that, because a lot of people coming from traditional companies or the consulting firms have been in this mindset of, oh, I got to be at my desk at 8, and I got to tell them when I go to lunch, and I got to tell them, like, stop messaging me when you're going to lunch. Like, I don't, like, I'm glad you're going to lunch, but I don't really care. Like, do your work and that's fine. You don't have to report. Like, we're not this kind of person just watching over you all the time. We're watching the work, not the time you're spending doing it, sort of thing.
That's a really cool method. That's a very, like, you're kind of like stepping into that new way of, doing business. That's incredible. I think that, like, sets you apart. So kind of moving on to why your business is so special. Who do you primarily serve in your business? Like, if I was in your audience, how would I know I was a good fit for your service?
We really specialize. So actually, why we left the old firm is they started dealing with much more large businesses, like private equity backed, public companies about to go public. That was really the market. And as a much larger firm with larger overhead, they really needed those sorts of clients to financially support them, which is, again, like, nothing wrong with that at all. My partner and I, though, our background is much more with founder-led startup, maybe seed or A-round businesses, pre-revenue in a lot of cases, up through the point where they are starting to look for that private equity money. That's really where we have spent most of our careers, and that's really who we focus on. We've got a lot of clients that are in that kind of venture-backed or still founder-led, founder-funded with some convertible notes maybe. We're really in that space of helping those. A lot of that comes down to, as well, is those are the businesses that they can't afford to have a controller or a CFO, or they can't afford a full-time person. So they really need some sort of an outsourced service. So it ends up being a very natural fit in a lot of cases, where you can only pay for maybe a quarter of this person's time, but you can't afford to not have that level of insight in your business. And as a owner, you're focused on so many other things. You can't do that yourself.
Definitely. I really like that you're in that space, kind of catering to those founders and those startups. Also, like, what would you say makes your business very, very unique? Like, what are your customers saying about you? Why do they choose you?
Yeah, I think there's two things that maybe set us apart. Like, full transparency, there's probably 1,000 outsourced bookkeeping firms. There's tons of outsourced CFO firms. There's a lot of people in this space. Where we fit is a bit different, where, we're not an outsourced bookkeeping firm. We're going to be too expensive for people at that. We've got, 2/3 of our team are CPAs. We're very technical accountants. We've done public company accounting. Where we fit more is in that space, kind of high-end bookkeeping to kind of the entry-level CFO services. And really, it's that intermediate controllership, senior accountant, technical accounting that, a CFO is going to give you great advice. They may help you go raise funds, but they aren't going to go in there and tell you that and fix something that's wrong with your financials. That's not their skill set. It's also not the skill set of a bookkeeper. So we've kind of fill that gap in the middle. The other thing that we do that is really the kind of specialty that we have grown into is people in this line that are looking to get their first fundraise, go raise debt, get a bank loan, get investment from somebody. Oftentimes they have never had professional accounting. They've been doing their books for taxes and for cash. They've just been kind of management by bank account. When you bring in outside money, that is no longer going to cut it. And oftentimes they can't even get the fundraise because someone from the outside looks at their books and can't understand what's happening. So what we spend a lot of time doing, we have a lot of clients on, is we will come in and go clean up the last 2-3 years of their books and redo their accounting, do an accrual basis if they need it, and then help them through a due diligence or an audit or review for them to get that fundraise. That we have a lot of project-based work where, they may have an accounting team that just doesn't have the time or the ability to do that. So we'll come in behind the scenes, get them through that event that they need. Sometimes we stick around after and maybe serve as an outsourced controller. Other times, they raise the money and they don't need us anymore, and we just kind of move on to the next project.
Yeah, it sounds like you're setting them up for success so they can like go to that next level of their business.
Yeah, and we're not a lot of consulting firms, and it's very attractive to kind of get in with a client. You just kind of just stick around forever, and we definitely have clients that have been with us pretty much since day one. But that's not really our model. We like variety. Like it's great to help a client go through meeting us to the point where we help them interview and help them hire that full-time person, and we
Mhm.
kind of able to move on because that, yeah, it helps them go to success. It helps them move on to what's the right fit for them at that time. And selfishly, that's a client that is going to refer business to us forever because we helped them improve and then we got out of their way and they were able to go on their way.
Yes, it's they can leave the nest.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, that's very cool. Well, this kind of leads right into my topic of marketing, which is, gaining those clients and,
Yeah.
sharing about your business. So I love to share how businesses are finding success with their marketing. And so I'm always curious, do you have a monthly budget for your marketing that you currently are using? And how much is that? Or if not, how are you approaching marketing?
Yeah. I'm going to be maybe your worst interviewee for this. So we put really no money into this. And we don't actually put a lot of effort into what you would see as traditional marketing. We
Mhm.
were trying to be more active on LinkedIn and some other stuff like that. But the reality of it is, because of the nature of what we do, we very much internally, our emphasis is on super high quality product results for clients. And we have really focused on outwardly in the outreach we've done, connecting with people like audit firms, venture capital funds, private equity funds, and letting them know that we're there and what we can do for them. And what's happened is those people end up doing our sales for us. A lot of times they send us the business, or we do, as you probably very well know, a lot of the business community in the Austin, Central Texas is somewhat small. A lot of entrepreneurs know each other. And when you do a great job for one of them, stuff just kind of comes in. So I think about, I would say 99.5% of our businesses all come through either current customer referrals or
Mhm.
people that have heard from us from some sort of like an institutional investor. So we're very fortunate in the fact that we've not really had to put any effort or thought into marketing. We put it all into making sure we're doing the best work possible so that people do our sales for us to some extent.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense for the nature of your business too, with
Yeah,
using
it's very specific to that.
referrals.
Yeah, I don't have a product that I'm
Mhm.
having to try to get new sellers for. Like it's very much a personal service, so it's very referral based.
Oh, definitely. I can already think of like 5 friends of mine who have small businesses that I could like send your stuff to. Like I'm, you know what I mean?
Everybody in this space knows people, yeah. So as long as you keep them happy, they send stuff to you. And the thing is too, we're very happy to refer stuff out. So we get a lot of things that are probably too small for us that have personal and business finances commingled, which
Mhm.
is super common in small businesses. We're not going to be the people to do your personal financial accounting. We don't do taxes. We don't do like there's certain things
Yeah.
where if it comes to us, we are happy to talk to you, understand your situation, and then we've got similarly a network of businesses that do personal financial accounting or small closely held businesses or audit firms or tax firms, and we are happy to send those referrals on.
Awesome. Well, I really love this conversation, how we're going. And, we've talked a lot about the business, and I'd like to talk a little bit about you, get to know your backstory a bit more. So, my first question there is, why did you choose to go into business for yourself as opposed to working for somebody else? And what was that transition like?
Yeah. So being in the consulting space, I think it's a more natural transition to go into business for yourself. Because at some point, I'm guessing most consultants figure this out. You realize that someone is effectively just marking up your labor and charging it out to someone else for benefit.
Mhm.
So as long as you're willing to accept the risk, the benefits of consulting firms, and it's not for everybody to go out on your own, is they do all the sales, they do all the administration. They add a lot of benefits there. But at some point, I kind of sat there and said, I think I can go out and do a lot of that stuff myself and
Mhm.
not have to kind of give up a lot of the upside that this consulting firm has have. And again, the other big thing that kind of caused us to want to go out on our own was the firm kind of leaving this kind of founder led early stage business space and going into larger. It left a vacancy in the market, frankly, in the Austin area for that. And so we saw that as like a easy path to try to immediately go after a bunch of different businesses. So it was kind of those two things happened within a couple months of each other, whereas kind of looking at the economics of it and thinking, why am I giving up, the value of my labor to someone else? And
Mhm.
a market opportunity has just kind of been created that would allow, hopefully, for a somewhat seamless transition. So that's really the reason why. And then the transition was, because of that, relatively seamless, where we already had worked with a lot of different businesses and they were being exited out of the space for the firm we were with. So there was a lot of people at that same time starting to look for somebody. So a lot of it was just, hey, we're here now. We are working with businesses your size, so let's have a conversation. And we were able to pretty seamlessly transition over about a 90-day period of time into being able to being kind of fully at capacity with the two of us.
Wow, that's incredible. That's nice to hear because sometimes the stories go a little like rough and tumble. So it's nice like
We
it kind of
expected,
works.
yeah, we had expected and kind of had planned for a pretty rough first 90 days.
Mm.
Yeah, we were fortunate that we kind of got lucky with a few things. Once some people kind of found out that we were out there, that we had, again, other businesses we'd worked with, we had a pretty soft landing when we left.
It's like take the blessings when they come because
Oh,
business
for sure.
ownership
Yeah,
is
no
hard.
complaints at all. I'm very well aware that we had a much easier path than a lot of businesses face when they go out on their own, for sure.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, that is super cool to like learn about how kind of got into it and how it was working. So I do kind of want to go into a question. What is a hurdle or roadblock block that you faced in within business and how did you overcome it?
The big one we have continued to struggle with is understanding timing of bringing clients on, hiring new employees, rolling them out, finding the right mix. Like this whole concept of like utilization of employees and making sure we have enough to staff jobs, but not so much that it becomes a risk to cash flow. And especially given the nature of we've got so much project-based work that comes and goes, how do you time projects starting and ending with bringing on new projects that start and end? And especially being referral based, and this is some of the flaw of that is you have less control over when stuff is starting and stopping. You're dealing
Yeah.
with kind of the referrals, and we've had enough that it's always kept us busy, but we have less visibility into timing and planning in that regard. So, we've gone from kind of managing clients through just having lists in Excel and Dropbox files, and we've implemented a time tracking system that is able to kind of do some basic client management. We've also rolled out a accounting firm specific tool out there called Keeper that helps with engagement management. So we've had to
Mhm.
grow up quite a bit over the last year and add a lot of these tools, whereas before it was, there was not so much that my partner and I couldn't just kind of feel like we had a handle on it, whereas now we definitely don't, and we've had to implement some tools that have given us better visibility, better reporting, as well as bring other people that management levels into helping us and taking some of the stuff off our plate. So we've definitely not solved it. We still struggle with it. We have conversations once a week about utilization and capacity planning, and do we need to hire someone now, or do we need to kind of tell this job we can't start for a couple months? So I don't know that we've solved it, but we are at least trying to address it in different ways and get away from doing it so manually. So we're working on it right now. Hopefully, at some point we solve it, but I don't know when that's going to be.
Yes, that is an ongoing uphill battle, but it sounds like you guys are onto something, so that's really good. Kind of looking at the next 3 to 5 years in business, what do you want to do with the company? How do you want it to grow here within the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think we're seeing that we're able to be much more focused on different markets that we serve. One of the big ones that I haven't even mentioned is we actually unintentionally early on ended up with a few nonprofit clients, and have since realized that that is a huge unmarked or untapped kind of market that we can approach. And so we've actually been very aggressively growing that line of the business. I think ultimately, if we were to look 3 to 5 years out, we would be probably much more structured, like you see a lot of consulting firms where you have distinct practices. Like this is the nonprofit practice, and maybe we have
Mm.
a full, outsourced practice and a fractional practice. So I think as we grow, we will be able to be a little bit more disciplined about kind of who is the right team to work on this project and how do we more effectively get to a point where we can market to specific practices. Right now, we kind of internally look at things along some sort of practice lines, but there's just so much gray area and bleed over between them that we kind of all work in different areas. So I think we will get to be much more specialized and allow people kind of more specialized advancement tracks within the firm. And as well, it'll allow us within these areas to offer more to clients as well. But part of the thing that's honestly about this is my partner and I started this thinking it was just going to be the two of us forever, and we'd have this nice little business that provided us with the life we wanted. So it's every year we kind of step back and are like, this is way bigger and way more than we ever thought. Like, what is happening here? And every year we kind of have this recalibration moment where we have to realize that we have already exceeded what we thought when we started. And so we have to kind of figure out what's next. So we do that kind of since July is our official when we started. We kind of do that every June. And so we'll be doing that in the next couple of weeks, trying to figure out what does that next 3 to 5 years look like? Because we keep not knowing, and we keep just kind of barreling ahead with what we've got.
Well, happy early anniversary. That is super
Thanks.
cool. Love that. So this has been an incredible conversation. I love that you've been sharing these nuggets of advice. So thank you so much for that. And for anyone listening to this, definitely take a listen a couple more times through, because there were so many things that you can pull from your experiences to help other businesses grow. So now I'd like to dive into a fun little segment called our rapid fire section. And this is where we have 4 questions. You can answer top of mind, just the first thing that pops into your head. So are you ready for some rapid fire?
Yes, I can handle that. Maybe.
I promise they're painless questions.
Okay.
So the first one is, what is a key to success for you?
I think it has to do with that stepping back and realizing where you're at. For us, we get a lot of times bogged down into something's going wrong, or there's a problem, or someone's complaining, and it's easy to get down on yourself, especially at an early stage where things can change so dramatically. So being able to take a minute and step back, and realize where you're at, and kind of see the big picture it's helped us from making probably some bad decisions in the moment that we would have made.
That's great advice. So what is one piece of advice that you have for other business owners?
Biggest thing I will say, especially at this early stage, because we deal with it all the time, is it may seem like it's not worth it early on. And I'm not saying to hire an outsourced person, but make sure you have control of your finances. Do not let them fall into disrepair. Don't do them once a year for taxes. Put the effort in. We see so many businesses that have made poor decisions because they didn't really understand the economics of their business. They were just watching cash. So
Mhm.
if you got a friend, someone that can help you out with that, but you've really got to keep an eye on that, because a lot of businesses put themselves in bad positions that they just got a little advice they could have avoided.
That's so true. What is one book, piece of content, podcast, anything that you've taken in most recently?
I'm listening to a book right now on Audible. I kind of read and listen to books at the same time. It's called Clear Thinking.
Hmm.
It's a audiobook. I don't know who it's by. It's by Shane Parrish. But it talks a lot about this. We still have a lot of, like, humans are still very reactionary to things, and how to not let that, how to know kind of when to rely on that versus how to not put yourself in bad positions when you're overreacting or need to kind of take a step back. So that's why I'm listening to it right now. It's been valuable. It's a good reminder to again kind of step back and don't rush through things. Make quick decisions on things that don't matter, but things that matter, make sure you take your time so you don't rush through it.
I am putting that on my list. And final question, if you had to choose only one area in your business that you could immediately improve on tomorrow, what would it be?
It would be employee onboarding. We again, we kind of had it easy early on because we hired people we knew. But I realized we hired our people, we've done them a disservice by not having as much of a robust onboarding, and it's kind of set timelines back, and it's taken longer to get people ramped up on clients. So we are absolutely focusing on trying to make that better for our employees, and it ultimately benefits all of us.
Wonderful. Well, we got through the rapid fire. And Jason, this has been such a great conversation. And before we wrap up with our final question,
Yeah.
how can people get in touch with you, get in touch with your business? Feel free to drop all of that information here.
Yeah, we're on LinkedIn. We don't have much of a presence, unfortunately. we have LinkedIn page, General Ledger Partners, and the website is just generalledgerpartners.com. It's a mouthful. We didn't think about that when we came up with our domain, and like giving people email addresses is they spell it wrong all the time. The General Ledger double L there, that's what gets everybody.
Mhm.
But yeah, we kind of have we got our website. We're on LinkedIn. We don't really have much additional social media presence, partially because we're not a consumer product. We're all business to business, and those are kind of the two main ways that people get a hold of us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that information. And now, our final question for today, Jason, is what is most inspiring to you today?
I think it's really been seeing the kind of fortitude and just ability to stick with it that we see with entrepreneurs, especially lately. We've been seeing some people kind of dealing with difficult environments in their business, but just that, I guess, what makes entrepreneurs who they are, that ability to kind of push through and not be deterred by speed bumps or detours in the path. I mean, it's something that luckily I get to benefit from. I get to see it in a bunch of different businesses and figure out how to make that work for us. So just in general, like especially in the Austin community, there's so many people out there that are seeing things in different ways and applying them in their business in ways that everyone can learn from. So
Well, thank you so much. Like I said before, this has been so inspiring. Jason, thank you for sharing your story
yeah,
of
thanks for
business
having
and
me.
information.